and friend of the NSG, and he has kindly and consistently led at least one masterclass each year over the last 4 years. Professor Chilizi Marwala is presently the rector of the United Nations University since March 2023. And prior to this, as you know, he was the vice chancellor and principal of the University of Johannesburg. He has made his CV and biography public, and I encourage you to read these for the detailed outline of Prof. Marwala's professional accomplishments, which include authorship of over 20 books, countless articles in journals, magazines, newspapers. He has extensive academic, policy, management, and international experience, and is a co-holder of 5 patents. Among the awards that Professor Marwala has received are the Presidential Order of Mapungubwe Bronze and the Academy of South Africa's Science for Society Gold Medal. He was named the 2021 IT Personality of the Year by the Institute of IT Professionals South Africa, and he was also a recipient of the Champion of Research Capacity Development Award from the National Research Foundation. Colleagues, NSG alumni, we have in our midst a South African artificial intelligence engineer, computer scientist, mechanical engineer, a university administrator, multidisciplinary researcher, an avid reader and writer, a leader, and a teacher. He will address us now for about 35 minutes or so, after which we'll take brief inputs from our 2 respondents and then conclude. It is now my pleasure and honor to call on Professor Chilizi Marwala to engage us on the masterclass timely, titled Leading Digital Transformation to Deliver Quality Public Services. Dimacheroni, Professor, over to you.
No, thank you very much, Professor Pale, and thank you very much, the supporters of NSG. I'm always delighted to be addressing NSG, and it was even much more pleasurable when I did it physically, but digitally is just as good. The ancient Buddhist text, the Mahavastu, meaning the great story, reads, and I quote, "In the early days of the cosmic cycle, mankind lived on an immaterial plane, dancing on air in a sort of fairyland where there was no need for food or clothing, no private property, family, government, or laws. Then gradually the process of cosmic decay began its work, and mankind became earthbound and felt the need of food and shelter. As men lost their primeval glory, distinctions of class arose, and they entered into agreements with one another, accepting the institution of private property and the family. With this theft, murder, adultery, and other crime began, and so the people met together and decided to appoint one man from among them to maintain order in return for a share of the produce of their fields and herds. This idea was a representation of the so-called the social contract. Jean-Jacques Rousseau, the famous French author's version of the social contract, philosophy promotes equality, collaborative decision-making, and the common good. Quite simply, the social contract is the agreement between a nation's government and its citizens. Underpinning this contract are public services, which are the commitments from government for the benefit of society. Of course, these services are aimed at enhancing the well-being of citizens and are integral to the very functioning of the social contract. We are now seeing a distinct shift in the delivery of these services in the age of artificial intelligence. Globally, we have undergone a paradigm shift. This represents a fundamental change to the way we live, work, and learn. This shift is characterized by digital transformation, which represents the integration of digital technology into all aspects of society. Naturally, as society evolves, so too must the social contract through the lens of digital transformation. In the context of the social contract, digital transformation plays a crucial role in modernizing government functions and in improving the delivery of public service to the citizens. And of course, if I have to go back to Rousseau, the breakdown of the social contract actually is dangerous for the stability of any nation. And of course, within the context of Rousseau, that breakdown of the social contract led to the so-called French Revolution. So digital transformation is another form of a revolution, and it's not just about adopting new technologies, digital technologies, but rather it is also about leveraging those technologies to improve governance, enhance service delivery, empower citizens, and promote inclusivity and accountability. In the South African context, we are sorely crying out for digital transformation in all spheres of our society. And this digital transformation must not leave anyone behind. Every time, once a month, when I get a WhatsApp message from my mother, she would be saying to me, I have run out of data. So the digital transformation at the core of it is actually the issue of data. As South Africans, we are well versed with the country's service delivery challenges. Now we are 30 years into democracy, and these challenges still remain pronounced. There are some arguments to be made about the erosion of this social contract in this context. Of course, as urbanization has increased, so too have service delivery frustrations, particularly in more populous cities such as Johannesburg. According to the Public Service Association, South Africa's service delivery challenges are partly symptomatic of institutional deficits and constrained resources, which are in some ways legacies of our dark apartheid past. Indeed, the legacy of apartheid has left deep-rooted socio-economic disparities, with historically disadvantaged communities facing significant barriers to accessing essential services. Inadequate infrastructure, particularly in rural and underserved areas, hampers the deliveries of these services. And of course, the ills of our society, such as corruption, alongside ballooning expenditure, have obviously exacerbated the service delivery challenges. This has not only undermined service delivery, but it has also eroded public trust. As the PSA outlines, since, and I quote, since delivery can be complicated by many factors outside government control, such as the level of poverty and the history of a country, much of the focus must be on getting government structures right first. I need to emphasize this point. We need to focus on getting government structures right first. And digital transformation is actually a motive force that is going to assist us to focus our attention on getting government structures right first. Great strides have been made in this regard, although there are lacks that persist from the COVID-19 pandemic. In response to the lingering challenges, in March 2024, President Cyril Ramaphosa announced interventions for ensuring South Africa is a capable developmental state. As outlined, the National Assembly has passed key legislation to enhance accountability and efficiency, while new directives guide departments in professionalizing the public service. I think the issue of professionalizing the public service, especially at an era where everything around us is digitizing, is more urgent than ever before. Reforms must focus on appointing qualified personnel, reducing interference of any kind, improving coordination with the help of digital technologies, and fighting all ills of our society. It stands to reason that beyond this legislation, we can tackle these scourges through digital transformation, which promises to ameliorate many of our most pressing challenges. In fact, digital transformation may be the very tool that restores South Africa's social contract. Tangibly, what does it look like? The Organization of the Economic Cooperation and Development, the OECD, calls for a shift from a reactive to a proactive service delivery mechanisms. Prior to the integration of technology, this calls for a thorough understanding of public service challenges and a mapping of citizens' needs in order to reorient strategies to be much more digitally orientated. Digital transformation is necessary because it promises enhanced service delivery as governments are able to streamline processes and deliver public services more efficiently and effectively. But for us to be able to do that, for us to streamline processes, for us to deliver public services more efficiently and effectively, we need a digitally literate public administration. For example, online portals, chatbots, and mobile applications can make it easier for citizens to access government services. But unfortunately, many of these portals and chatbots are primarily in English. And one of the things that we ought to do is how do we build these chatbots into our 12 official languages so that we can actually increase access to service delivery. Here, government are able to innovate and adapt to changing societal needs more quickly. These technologies that I have talked about can also facilitate great transparency and accountability. For instance, open data initiatives make government data accessible to the public. And the issue of data is actually a third recommendation of the Presidential Commission on the Fourth Industrial Revolution. For instance, this could allow citizens to monitor government performance, track spending, and hold officials accountable. This empowers citizens as they have greater access to information and resources and can actively participate in decision-making processes. Digital transformation also enables access to aids in tackling challenges surrounding inclusivity particularly by marginalized communities. This goes a long way in tackling the digital divide, which is pervasive in South Africa. In outlining global digital government development practices, SAGA's key objectives include developing digital economy, which entails leveraging digital technologies to stimulate economic growth, innovation, and job creation within the public sector, while also promoting collaboration with the private sector partners to enhance service delivery and efficiency, promoting sharing and openness to amplify the impact of internet-based government reforms, which involves facilitating the exchange of data between government agencies, and this requires data standardization, stakeholders, and citizens to improve decision-making, enhance transparency, and promote accountability, and improving digital literacy through promoting the soft power of digital government development, which involves investing in programs and initiatives to increase citizens' understanding of digital technologies. This will require the NSG and other government departments to partner with local universities. Just over a week ago, after the President Ramaphosa's announcement, the Department of Public Service and Administration confirmed that it was close to completing a policy framework to guide the digital transformation of public services. The policy framework outlines strategies to enhance public service delivery and operational efficiency while prioritizing citizen needs. It addresses challenges such as disjointed processes and outdated systems, focusing on 6 pillars: citizen access, government efficiency, data security, which is very, very important, innovation, transparency, and service delivery. While this is certainly an encouraging step, what is really required is implementation, which is the implementation is actually recommendation number 8 of the Fourth Industrial Revolution Commission report. Alongside the benefits, we must also acknowledge and consider the risks and unintended consequences of digital transformation. Identity theft poses a significant threat, with the collection and the storage of large amounts of personal data increasing the potential for breaches and misuses. Cybersecurity challenges, including ransomware attacks and data breaches, highlight the importance of robust cybersecurity measures to safeguard sensitive information and ensure the integrity of digital systems. Of course, this requires cybersecurity skills. Again, partnering with local universities and also industries is even more necessary. Algorithmic bias stemming from biased data or flawed algorithms can perpetuate discrimination and inequality, undermining the fairness and effectiveness of automated decision-making processes. Moreover, the manipulation of democratic processes through misinformation campaigns and social media manipulation underscores the need for transparency, accountability, and regulation to protect the integrity of democratic institutions and electoral processes. Outdated IT systems and infrastructure impede progress, which requires substantial investments. Additionally, a shortage of digital skills within the public sector organizations, resistance to change, interoperability of technologies, compliance with regulations, and limited digital literacy and accessibility can further complicate the digital transformation journey. Digital transformation requires policymakers to mitigate these challenges to ensure the benefits are prioritized and realized. This, however, requires a leadership recalibration. And part of that recalibration is actually learning. And in this regard, I have to congratulate the NSG for playing a positive part in that recalibration. We have to begin to rethink what leadership means in the 21st century, especially within the context of digital transformation. This begins at a municipal level and has to filter up. As I have written extensively, our municipalities demonstrate a clear absence of essential critical skills. How do we train the existing workforce in the municipal levels so that we can actually create a cadre of civil servants at the municipal levels that are actually equal to the task? And again, one of the mechanisms that we need to do is to democratize access to digital knowledge, to partner with universities so that we can be able to upgrade the skills base of municipal workers. During this current era of digital transformation, leaders must adjust their mindset by developing the following skills: adeptness in solving complex problems, sharp critical thinking abilities, fostering creativity, effective people management, efficient coordination with others, high emotional intelligence, sound judgment and decision-making capabilities, service orientation, effective negotiation skills, and cognitive flexibility. As I have often maintained, effective leadership must be based on the principles of scientific and mathematical reasoning, as well as sound governance. There is an argument to be made that municipalities must include mechanical, civil, and electrical engineers, as an example, as best pipes require comprehensive knowledge of civil engineering skills. The replacement pipes also require good planning, logistics, and finance, indicating a clear need for a wider skill set. Beyond this, it requires leaders to take decisive action. Matlangu and others outlined that realizing the full potential of these technologies in public service delivery requires significant investment in skills development to equip the workforce with the necessary capabilities. As the authors argue, digital transformation has conscientized the public sector that traditional methods of service delivery will not continue to be adequate, count, realistic, and sustainable throughout the unfolding revolution. Moreover, infrastructure challenges such as limited internet connectivity and inadequate research facilities pose obstacles to widespread adoption. Policymakers must confront these difficulties in order to provide fair and equal access to the advantages of technological progress and minimize the potential for worsening pre-existing disparities in society. This requires buy-in at every tier. As the Public Service and Administration Minister Nokolo Kivit said last year, and I quote, "We need the commitment of departmental leadership, interdepartmental and intergovernmental collaboration, regular reporting and appropriate resourcing, and skilled public servants," close quote. Indeed, digital transformation could revolutionize public services in South Africa, but we must be willing to do the work. But we are also living at a time when digitization is being accelerated by a new form of technology called artificial intelligence. And we need to adopt these technologies to improve the work. And of course, we must work hard to establish AI governance frameworks that tackles unequal access and diverse socio-economic settings. This framework for good AI governance should emphasize three aspects. First, we must establish AI governance on solid ideals like transparency, truth, and privacy. Transparency promotes stakeholder confidence and accountability and allows fair technology review for ethical and legal compliance. AI behavior must be predictable and trustworthy in transportation and in healthcare to ensure public safety. Because if we don't govern this technology, it is going to harm us. Truth is needed to construct accurate and unbiased AI systems, eliminate disinformation in research, education, and media, and build social trust to spread AI for good. Privacy is essential to protect the massive personal data AI systems acquire. Importantly, AI benefits should never outweigh individual liberties. Thus, aligning our AI governance values with the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and UN Charter encourages equality and human dignity while tying AI to the joint pursuit of peace, security, and justice. Second, these values should guide action hierarchy. This hierarchy isn't top-down. Layers of action affect positive upward AI evolution for good and its loss. To promote accurate public health education with AI, we need methods and actions to stimulate development of AI solutions that challenge misinformation. To develop and assess global privacy norms for AI algorithm training, we need national institutions that will actually be able to work to protect. I was happy to hear that there is a new AI institute that is being developed in South Africa specifically to deal with the application of AI in the military. Thirdly, we should prioritize data, algorithms, computers, and applications as we determine the most important AI governance domains. Data governance controls data collection, storage, analysis, and cross-border data flow while safeguarding sensitive data. AI decisions must be free of bias and reliably and safely inform all aspects of our economy, whether it is law enforcement, whether it is healthcare applications, but this can only be done through responsible AI governance. AI impact livelihoods, economies, and ecosystems, and key infrastructure around data, around applications, around applications in all areas, around access to computing, which we have, especially at the CSIR, must be used for the public good. And finally, while shaping AI for good, we must realize that it will always be a dynamic frontier of innovation with the potential for negative repercussions and unforeseen failures if we are not prepared. According to computer scientist Fei-Fei Li, artificial intelligence is not a substitute for human intelligence. It is a tool to amplify human creativity and ingenuity. Our approach to AI governance must be dynamic, imaginative, and creative as AI itself. As Francis Gaffney, who wrote the foreword to digital transformation and public services argues this is really a matter of will and skill. So we need to build the willingness of the public servants to do the work, but we also must build the skills that is needed to empower them to be capable of doing service delivery work. Thank you very much. Ndialibuwa, kialibuwa, niyabonga. Baya danke.
Thanks to you, Professor Marwala. What a sobering portrayal of challenges, threats even, as well as opportunities and prospects for optimizing digital transformation for quality service delivery. We did say this is a short, intensive, constrained time-wise masterclass. So it is my pleasure now to request our two respondents to make their inputs in around 5 minutes or so. And we'll start with Madame Nobubela Jordan Tiani, Director General of the Department of Communications and Digital Transformation Technologies. Thank you.
Thank you very much to our program director this morning, and I would like to brief the Honorable Prof. Always good to see you, the captain of our international university, all universities around the globe. So it is quite an interesting topic from us, and I'm glad that, I was looking here, we've got 510 almost participants on the platform. This is really good for us. We've been trying to spread the good news that Prof has just said now. Just a quick, in terms of quick reflections, certainly we do agree with everything that Prof has said. It's not only emphasized in the Presidential Commission on 4IR report, it's also part of the digital transformation strategy that the department has been leading, working together with our colleagues from the Public Service Administration Department, the Presidency, National Treasury, and also obviously with CETA as an implementing agency. And I know that even the Public Service Commission has taken much interest in. And we've also, this is coupled with the digital skills strategy that came out in 2018 and revised in 2021, that basically does indicate that there is a need for us to look at a digital transformation or upskilling and reskilling of public service. There's no way that any country is going to be able to achieve digital transformation if you do not pray and take interest in as far as ensuring that public service drives and is at the lead of it. So there's definitely a need for us to improve the training in this, and this obviously will have direct impact in as far as improved government services to the citizens, but also ensuring that South Africa is competitive. Most of the programs obviously are being driven by us. We also have state-owned entities. I think when people think government, they think only in terms of government departments, but they're not looking in terms of holistically that it's also being driven by state-owned entities. We've got obviously and key ones in terms of frontline service delivery as well. So I also wanted to just touch on a couple of issues. I think the most important one is on the data. Prof, the data issue is very key. The management of data. And this basically then says every single public servant should then have a basic skills or digital literacy skills in terms of data science. And we've now, we're in the final stages of finalizing an MOA with the National School of Government, and as well as our implementing agency, which is NEMISA. It's a state-owned entities, one of 11 from the department. And we will therefore be driving this program to ensure that the data scientist becomes your basic, your basic core skill. And then we're also looking, part of also in terms of professionalizing of public service, I think Prof talked about the need for us to make sure, at least from municipality level, all municipal workers are also trained. And we've also identified similar training programs for them. And we're not just focusing in terms of municipal, but I think as government, we also, again, always think national and provincial, but we've got to think in terms of all three spheres. And I mean, those key programs from your most basic, which is your digital literacy program, and I also emphasize the data science. We also have the creative media. You know, there's an element that we always forget in as far as how do we optimize the communications platforms that we have to be able to reach the citizens. So as Prof indicated, we put our information on our website, but we put it in your, what we call is a business language, which is English, forgetting that majority of the citizens are only comprehensive or understand issues in the indigenous languages. So the issue of your creative media skills in as far as, and utilizing your various platforms as well as applications to be able to reach them. We most certainly need to work as a country collectively, and that's one of the other programs that we're doing in terms of the creative industry in building on terms of our indigenous languages. South Africa, we've got 11, but very often or very few that we're able to get documents and information in all 11 languages. So we've got to work with the Departments of Arts and Culture to ensure that we are able then to digitize the information in all 11 languages. So that is also another key aspect. And then I think if we're then talking the overall public service, as I said, over and above these literacy programs or training programs that one has to have. Additionally, I mean, cybersecurity is very key. We underestimated, but how often is information hacked? And I'm not talking the major hack that happened at Transnet and Eskom and others, but just basic in as far as the hacking and this leads to the citizens and misinformation and disinformation that they have, because our email addresses are hacked and suddenly there's information. You're suddenly getting basic people saying, open up this account. How often during the tax season period that people get dubious accounts from a so-called SARS to then say, in order for you to unlock your claims, this is what you got to do. So I think a basic cybersecurity training program for all government workers is going to be very key. And we don't need to just leave this reliantly for then just to say it's for your CIOs and your IT colleagues. And how then do we also in the area of the digital economy optimize in terms of the cloud technologies? Again, that's got to be another skill that has to be made readily available for all. And the digital transformation course, which will then, as a part of also another part of the MOA, it will then be integrated as part of the NSG Executive Management Program. That is also going to be very key. And that again, I mean, similar to your program, Nugela, that says before you can make an application at an SMS level, you've got to make sure that you've gone through that. And now that the digital transformation pack course, the digital transformation course will form part of that. Prof, I think you'll be very happy. You will. I foresee that there is going to be certain change with these going. If in the next year or so, when we assess it, as we're intending that the programs will start, hopefully within the next quarter, which is planned from the end of June onwards. Lastly, I just want to maybe just quickly touch on some of the programs that we are doing just to enhance this. I think Prof talked about the AI. We are busy launching AI hubs. We've now have 6 AI hubs across the country in the various aspects, and I think public services, but one of those, that is also led by in collaboration with University of Joburg. And then the others as well, just to enhance on that. And then on the issue of data, in order for us, not only for the data to be available online, but for citizens to be able to access that, we are rolling out the SA Connect program to basically ensure that there's connectivity across the country, irrespective of where you're at. What Prof talked about, that his mom needs to always crying about the issue of data. We want to not only ensure that data is cheaper and more affordable for the citizens, and we have our programs talk about the data package range from 5 rands in terms of 1 gig of data. That is for the day. Alternatively, if you want a monthly data package, which is uncapped, it's about average 289 rands only. And we're hoping that with those data packages, people then it becomes more accessible. But over and above that, we're also working with our regulator, ICASA, to ensure that we zero rate government sites, so that citizens will then be able to get that information online and free in terms of being able to access that. So those are some of the programs I just thought maybe let me just quickly touch on, to then just give an assurance to all participants that we are on a course, we are working collaboratively with our sister departments as government to ensure that we are advancing this digital transformation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam DG, for your frank reflections and those practical examples of work underway with cross-cutting implications. May we now have a response, input, commentary from Dr. Mboneni Mofe, who is Deputy Director General of Social Economic Innovation Partnerships at the Department of Science and Innovation. Over to you, sir.
Good morning. Let me first also extend my greetings to Professor Marwara and to the rest of the people who have joined this meeting. I think we have reached a point where we are now aware that the issue of digitization is no longer an optional extra for us. It's really a must. And we need to therefore identify what we need to be focusing on. And in addition to what the DG has been saying, I think it is quite crucial that we also look at how do we strengthen our own foundation in terms of looking at this digitization. And I really want to highlight some of the programs that we've been running, we've started and we're funding. And this is what we call the Foundational Digital Capabilities Program. It's basically saying we need to have a very strong foundations, which is going to look at ushering us into digitization that will enable us to deal with some of the challenges that Professor Marwara has highlighted. Now, when we talk about the role of AI and the opportunities and the challenges that we have to deal with coming out of some of the algorithm biases and so on and so forth, I think the biggest challenge is we need to look at what these technologies do at the interface of where we see the benefits as more or less like going out into the field and harvest what you have actually planted over the years. And if you just continue to harvest without the situation where you're going to wake up one day and go to harvest and find that there is nothing, unless you choose to go and harvest in somebody else's field. And this is really where the issues of biases come in. Professor Marwara mentioned some of the challenges, and we see when AI was being used or is being used, for example, in recruitment, there are certain biases that it has been found to build in. And the reason is when we don't really have this foundation that contextualizes where the learning of these systems, so-called machine learning and so forth, can actually draw its data. It probably will draw wherever the data is, which might not necessarily be in context and in having the necessary content that we're looking at. And one of the content that is referred to is also the issue of languages. Nobody in the USA or in Europe will go and develop a system that's going to communicate to me in my own language in Chivenda. So we therefore need to have our own South Africans developing that kind of context where people can actually be able to reach out to. Now, one of the things that I think we've also need to look at, and we have during COVID started a program called the NPDO, which is a National Policy Data Observatory. And it's really done some good works during COVID, and it continues to do a lot of good work. Now, including the responses that we have been having during disasters, where we look at all the data that is being generated from various government sources, government institutions, entities, and so on and so forth, and then say, how do we use that data to respond to some of the challenges here in terms of dealing with climate changes, impact like the flooding that we have seen, whether it was in the Western Cape, in KZN, and in the Eastern Cape and Northwest, where we then are able to say, let's use the data that we have, because there is so much richness of data in government, but the challenges around interoperability and the coordination makes it difficult sometimes for us to make simple decisions because the data isn't really talking to one another. And through the NPDO, we are trying to work with various government entities and government departments to make sure that there is that level of coordination and interoperability. However, we need to look at this again as a South African Inc. project, because ultimately it doesn't really help for us to have all these gadgets and the infrastructure and the technologies, but generate data that is so restricted in terms of interoperability that we cannot use it otherwise. So I therefore want to say that we need to continue to look at that. And the issue that is also important, and I'm sitting here having a meeting with SALGA, where we're partnering on ensuring that municipalities have a certain level of readiness to be able to absorb innovation. And that level of readiness also comes with issues of capacity development. We need to have within that level of governance properly skilled individuals who are able to easily assimilate innovations when they are there to be used to benefit society. Because if we don't have proper uptake of innovations and technologies at that level, the kind of experience that people have with government or with services is not going to be realized, because that's where they need to have it. So we are creating that bridge where we are saying, whatever we do, let us be able to bridge what is happening at national government and provincial government level to reach out to provincial government. So as I close, I think it's pretty much important that when we look at this whole big program or project around digitization, it is not something that is only a DCDT thing or CETA thing, but it's something that while they lead, the rest of government has to be ready to move, because otherwise this project, if we don't do it, we are going to see the biggest negative impact of these newer technologies, not only on our day-to-day living in terms of experiences of service delivery, but also in all areas, because we're beginning to see how digitization is entering into the space of food security. We all know now the impact in the area of climate change, looking at aspects around the impact on infrastructure and how you begin to even manage your infrastructures, logistics, using AI and anchor those in the aspect of digitization. So I'm going to stop it at that, but say that this is indeed a project that, as Professor Marwara has indicated, we want to really make sure that the pillars that are going to sustain us getting into the digitization of our economy are actually taken care of, so that we are able to not only do it for ourselves, but also to benefit the rest of the African continent. Thank you very much.
Thank you, DDG, for those highlights with the emphasis on coordination, cooperation, sustainability. Prof. Marwala, would love to hear from you now what your weaving of these inputs looks like for you. And maybe if you could also look at some of the questions that may have come through in chats at the bottom to the extent.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, I cannot be able to go through all the questions. I see about 18, which is quite a bit, but I think I can be able to summarize them into a few issues. The first one is, how do we capacitate the South African state so that it is not a spectator in this very important revolution? I think the first one is we need to hold our public servants accountable that they need to learn about these technologies. They absolutely need to learn about these technologies, because if they don't learn about these technologies, they are going to lead us into temptations and deliver us to poverty. The second thing that we actually need to do is to strengthen our educational institutions. Even though we do have excellent universities that understand what AI is all about, we should not take it for granted that there are universities that needs to be taken into the AI age. And partnerships are very, very key. Where things are going well, how do we use that in order to partner? So that is one question. Then the second question is issues of access. We do know that our country has serious infrastructure deficit. And issues of water and electricity become issues of connectivity, because without electricity, you obviously are not going, the data centers do not work well. The cell phone towers that deliver the bulk of our telecommunication do not work well. So while we are focusing on digitization, we should not forget that there are other essential elements that we might not think of them as digitization, but they are the very core of digitization: energy, water, and so on and so forth. And then the third group of questions were around whether we are ready. I am the Secretary General of the United Nations has appointed the high-level advisory board on artificial intelligence so that we can have global governance of this technology. The United States government has sent to the United Nations their own view of AI. And of course, the view of AI that comes from the US government and also from China are important, because the bulk of these technologies are being developed in United States and some of them in China. Now, the question that we have to ask ourselves, Nongqubela would obviously address some of these issues, is how do we create our own AI strategy as a country? The fourth industrial revolution strategy covers AI as one of the technologies of the fourth industrial revolution. But it has become clear that AI is everywhere. We need to create our own policies. Those policies must inform productivity. We must think about the future of work. Is this technology going to take away our work? And what do we do about it? How do we reskill our people so that they are able to still have a stake when this technology takes away, when new jobs are actually created? I think the issue, just in summary, I think this whole issue of digitization requires education. It requires understanding of the technology, and it can come through education, formal education, but we can improve ourselves. It requires our understanding and investment into data. It requires our investment into infrastructure. It requires us to incentivize the adoption of these technologies. It requires policies that make sure that these technologies are invested on. It requires financial resources for us to invest. And ultimately, it requires lawmakers and legislators who are technologically literate. Thank you very much. Ndiaribuwa abundant.
Really, and on that note, I would like our Deputy Director General, Madam Pindile Mkonazi, to express our appreciation and word of thanks.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Professor Marala, for such an insightful masterclass. As always, we appreciate your insight and getting us to talk around what is it that government is doing and how are we getting ready? What are the things that we need to put in place? So we are so happy that you spend the morning with us and got us to think around these issues. I also want to thank the DG, Ms. Jordan Jani, for her inputs on this and highlighting the kind of works that we're doing between the two departments, the National School of Government and the Department of Communication, in trying to make sure that we bring digital transformation within the public sector and the kind of programs that we'll be putting in place to enable build capacity within the state. We also like to thank Dr. Mofe for his inputs as well, talking about what is being done and his response around this. It's interesting to see and make sure that the public also knows the kind of work that we're all doing in the public sector to get ourselves ready and to be able to make sure that service delivery is done and we use the tools. As Professor Marala said, these are things, AI is not something to be scared of. It's a tool that we can use to enhance how we do our work. Also like to thank Professor Paile as our program director and the back office for making this possible for us. We're looking forward to certain things that maybe to highlight. As what Professor Marla said, we need to democratize the access to digital learning. It's one of the things that the NSG is trying to work on. As the DG said, that they are looking at zero rating all the government sites. Our vision as the schools to make sure that our e-learning platform is zero rated so that all public servants can be able to access all the courses that will be available to them anytime, anywhere. It doesn't matter where they are. So we're looking forward to those interventions to make sure that there's accessibility in education and making sure that we build the digital skills within the public sector. I'd like to thank everyone for attending this masterclass. We hope that you keep looking at what the NSG is doing, and we continue having the masterclasses, bringing topical topics that can assist the public sector to grow and to be professional. Please look at our website, look at the different courses that we provide to make sure that we build capacity. Again, I would like to thank our guests, especially Professor Marala, for being with us today. Thank you. Enjoy your rest of your day.